Hello, welcome to your video on adding and subtracting real numbers. Although you don't know what the word real numbers means yet, you will. Hang tight. You will be able to add and subtract real numbers to solve real world problems. That is your I can statement. So let's get started. Vocabulary comes first. The first one we have is additive inverses. When you're adding opposites, the sum is 0. So 3 and negative 3 are opposites. You're adding them together. 3 plus negative 3 is 0. Anytime that you get an answer of 0, those are called additive inverses. Another word you might be familiar with is zero pairs. Zero pairs are essentially additive inverses because you are canceling them out. Because you have a positive and negative. So zero pairs is another word that pretty much means the same thing. How do I solve fraction operation problems? This is going to be a speedy, fast review for you. Adding and subtracting, you have to have a common denominator. For example, I have 3/4 plus 5/6. So I need to make a common denominator. That common denominator would be 12. 4 times 3 is 12, 3 times 3 is 9, 6 times 2 is 12, so 5 times 2 is 10, and we get an answer of 19/12. We can change that into a mixed number, and then there are 7/12 left over. That's speedy fast. Here we go. Multiplying. You multiply across after you cross simplify. Being able to cross simplify is going to make your life way easier, so be in the habit of doing that. I can cross simplify the 3 and the 6. 3 goes into 3, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Now I multiply across. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 13 is 13. There's my answer in already simplified form. Dividing. You want to keep, switch, flip. So you keep the first one. So if my example was 1/3 divided by 6/13, you would keep the first fraction, 1/3, switch to a multiplication sign, and then flip that second fraction. So it would become 13/6. Then you would look to cross simplify. In this one you can't, and 13/18 would become your final answer. How do I add real numbers? This is the big kahuna here. We're going to do 3 different problems. There are 2 ways you can answer. How many zero pairs are there, and then how many are left over? Or you can answer the question, who wins and by how much? I'm going to show you both ways with the first one, and then I'll use my favorite way after that. So 3 plus negative 5. If I have 0 pairs, I'm going to have my positives be yellow and my negatives be red. So I have 3 positives and 5 negatives. And then I cross out 0 pairs. How many are left? Well, there's 2 negatives left, so the answer is -2. That would be answering the questions in yellow. Okay, same question, different way to do it. We're going to go with the green. Who wins by how much? Okay, so in this one, you set up a table. You have team positive and team negative. I like this because it's sports. Okay, my 3 is positive. My 5 is negative. Who wins? Negative wins. How much do they win by? They win by 2, so my answer then is -2. Okay, I'm going to show you the same thing. I'm going to stick with the who wins by how much for these. Here we go, positive, negative. I have -2 and -5. Notice I'm not writing the negative sign in there, just the number. Positive has 0. What's the final score? 0 to 7. Who wins? Negative. By how much? 7. So the answer then is -7. You can do the same thing with fractions. It's just a little bit harder on your scoreboard, but it works. Okay, I have positive and negative. Negative is a half, positive is 2/3. Now, this doesn't work so well because we have uncommon denominators. So before you do that, you'll want to make a common denominator. And in this case, it's going to be 6 times 3, so we have negative 3/6, and times 2, we have 4. So negative 3, you can now kind of ignore the denominator a little bit, but positive is 4/6, and negative is 3/6. Who wins? Positive wins. How much do they win by? They win by 1/6, so the answer is 1/6. Your turn. Go ahead and answer these problems. The your turn you're writing on the left. Write down the problems and the answers on the right. Make sure you're using scoreboard or the dots, whichever method you're choosing. That scoreboard's going to be faster and easier. And then pause the video, turn it back on when you're done. Alright, answers to this one. Number 1, -8. Number 2, 6.9. That maybe was a little bit tricky math. And then -32 is the last one. If you got these wrong, circle it, star it, sticky note, whatever. However you're going to indicate that. If you got them right, it wouldn't hurt to indicate that you got them right either. Subtracting real numbers is pretty similar. There's just one trick to it. The trick is you want to add the opposite before you do anything else. What that means is if I have a problem that says 3 minus 5, I'm going to change the minus sign to a plus sign, and then I'm going to take the opposite of just the second number, never the first, just the number following that switched sign. So I have a 5, the opposite of 5 is -5. So now my problem turns into 3 plus -5. Okay? Same thing works with letters, just to give you a bigger example. If I have A minus B, okay, that's going to turn into A plus, and then the opposite of B is -B. All right. First problem. You can, again, add the opposite, and then it's an addition problem. So I'm going to add, and then the opposite of 2 is -2. Scoreboard is the method I'm choosing, but you could use showing of 0 pairs. 7 is negative, 2 is negative. So my answer is going to be -9. Another one here. Again, add, and then the opposite of -6 is +6. Okay, you could have 2 plus signs, or if that's confusing, just make it a big plus sign. And then we have 12 plus 6. That's easy math. That's 18. You're done. Last one just takes a little bit longer because we're dealing with fractions. Okay, find a common denominator. In this case, it's going to be 15. So we have -5/15 and 12/15. I'm going to rewrite this. So I have -5/15 minus 12/15. Now I add the opposite. And I have -5/15 and -12. Don't need that negative sign there. And 12/15 is negative. So my scoreboard then is going to be winning, negative wins, by 17/15. So there's my answer. You could also change it into a mixed number of -1 and 2/15. Your turn. You have 2 questions. The second one involves decimals, so that might be a little bit trickier, but use your scoreboard and you should be just fine. Make sure you're showing all of your work, and then pause the video, turn it back on when you're done. Answers for this one. You should have gotten -4 for the first one, and negative 7.7 for the second one. If you didn't, mark it, put a sticky note, sad face, star it, whatever you got to do so you know if you have these right or wrong. Alright, this is the end of your video. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.